Gosh, the sun is like it's right there, just right across the highway. Okay, there. My natural light is not working very well. Okay. Hello, my sweeties. You have made it to chapter 9 on the House of Nine series. If you guys have been keeping up with that series, I really hope you've been enjoying that. Today I kind of wanted to go over a couple of things. We just had Christmas yesterday. I don't know if I'll be able to upload this video by then, but I wanted to go ahead and record this. So today I wanted to talk about mental health. So let's grab our cups of coffee, in my case, or tea, and let's talk about mental health.
I crawled from the tomb. The darkness. You can't imagine the pain.
You were the only one who could have warned the guild. Who could tell them the Iron Wheel was coming.
Elsa, stop.
Sierra, you were never the hero.
So it's that time of year where mental health has been a huge issue with everything having gone on, with the virus and, just the uncertainties that have been going on. I know people have been dealing with homelessness, losing jobs, and possibly benefits, or having the uncertainty of what your benefits are going to be. Someone like me, I also am on benefits, and it's always, I feel like every month or so I get another set of letters saying something different or confusing, and I call the office here and they don't know, because apparently they're not the ones sending out the letters, so they don't even know half the time what these letters are saying, which drives me nuts to say the least. But it's been a very hard year, and for those of us who have mental health, it also is feeling like the final straw, or you're just starting to get to where it's just too much. So I have hair stuck in my mouth. Where it's getting too much, and it's overwhelming, and I totally get that. It's been super overwhelming for me as well, but it's also been kind of relaxing in a way too. I mean, I think for me during the whole quarantine, I actually kind of enjoyed it because I got to spend more time being able to work on my creativity without having to choose between my creativity, my kids, and my job. And, being the breadwinner of the family, I got to be able to keep that in mind, that's always in the back of my head. So I want to accomplish my dreams. I want to accomplish my education, which I will be graduating in June. So I'm, really on that verge of graduation, but, I also have to keep my mental health stable. I have to keep my family stable. I have to make sure the finances are well taken care of and everything. So even though I want to do all these projects, I get overwhelmed sometimes just trying to find the time to do all of them. Like this series that I've been wanting to do for quite some time, and it was always like a struggle to choose between working on my YouTube channel, working on my book, and working on my art. Like right now, I think the biggest challenge I've been having is working on my sketches. And I've been trying to get more and more sketches done to upload onto my Patreon, which is where you guys can see them before they are published into the actual physical book. But it's also been very difficult as well because, I don't know what all to set up for my Patreons to make it worth your time, because I set that up so if you wanted to donate to my channel and support me in accomplishing my dreams and getting me, like, helping me get my book published, that's why I set it up. But it's also wise to, have some limited things over there. And I'd love to eventually get some merch and stuff set up, but I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. But I would love to like lower the price on my Patreon, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that. And I may not even be able to because of how I set it up in the beginning because I didn't know. And so yeah. But that's another time. I don't want to rant about that stuff. Today I specifically want to talk about mental health, and when it comes to family and friends and people you might not even realize might need that extra support. So I'm going to share with you guys a couple of stories over the last few weeks. One happened yesterday with one of my sons, and another one has kind of been going on off and on for a couple of weeks now. I was trying to help a friend out, helping a friend, and it kind of took its toll on me mentally, and also just having to choose to decide to let that certain friend go and just take some toxicity out of my life that I didn't even realize was there and was actually affecting me so much, even though I had two of my friends going, um, I think this is, not as healthy as you think, and it's not, you're not handling as well as you think you are. So I wanted to go over those things and see, and in hopes that they might help you guys as well during this time. And know that you're not alone when it comes to mental health. And you are more than welcome to share your own stories down below as well. And let's just communicate with each other and share and try to be there for each other. Because that's the whole point of me wanting to do this channel, is to try and give people support where they might not even realize they needed it, or just trying to give advice and talk about other things and just talking about life and enjoying life and all that. So here are my couple of stories. So the first one I want to talk about involves my son Merrick, my youngest son, my little New Year's baby, who will be 8 next week. Sorry, I know I'm a young mom, but it also makes me feel old knowing my kids, my babies are getting older. I know every parent goes through that. So I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit. There we go. Okay, um, so yesterday was Christmas. As I said, I don't know if I'll get this uploaded tonight or not, but I'm recording this the day after Christmas. So yesterday was Christmas, and we didn't really do opening presents this year, just because we didn't really have any, and that has nothing to do with our finances. I financially could get my kids presents. I just, with the virus and everything, I just didn't feel safe dealing with the huge crowds of people going and getting gifts for friends and family. And my best friend actually told me it was wise because she and her husband went and she said it was chaotic. So I'm really glad that I did not go. It was hard enough going and getting groceries, much less going and getting presents and stuff for my kids. So, and I'm planning on getting them their gifts and stuff, just not yet. We will be doing a giftopia. It's just not going to be on Christmas Day, obviously. And then they also have their birthdays coming up this month too, so, or next month. So we have all that. But anyway, so instead of doing opening gifts, I decided, you know what, let's just get out of the house for a bit. We have been in quarantine for quite some time. I mean, I go out and I, get groceries and I work at my job and come home. But for the most part, we try to stay home. We don't go out as much, and we're a huge family about going out. We love going out, especially when the weather's nice, and just going outside and getting fresh air, enjoy nature and all that other stuff. Normally, I would be taking my kids, to the park on my days off if they didn't have other things to do. Just things like that. So I thought, you know what, let's go for a hike on Christmas. So we went for a hike, right here in town on one of our nature trails. And it's kind of around this lake, and we went on a hike, and it was fun because we got to see like a mini snowman And we got to see like someone had piled like the little rocks on top of each other thing. We got to see a smiley face and a heart done on the frozen lake, which was kind of neat. um and we weren't the only people out there. There was a couple other people out there, a couple other groups of people. But because we were outside and we were on this trail, we were able pretty much distance. There was just a couple of guys that they'd obviously been out hiking for quite some time that day, because I mean they had their gear and everything. We were just going on a casual hike, and they literally were on like this intense hike. Um, who kind of got in our personal space, but not by much. They just kind of went around us on the trail, and we were just kind of teetering and everything. And Merrick got to be the cameraman. He's my little cameraman. He loves to be on the camera. He loves to hold the camera and video everything. So he was being my little cameraman, and all that. And we got to take some pictures and stuff, and it was really nice. Now, Merrick especially, both my boys have been super good and such troopers about wearing their mask, which I'm so happy about and so grateful that I rarely ever have to have a discussion or argument with them when it comes to having to wear their mask when we are out. So Merrick had actually decided to wear his mask the entire hike, which, he didn't have to because it was really just the three of us. And yeah, there were these other good people, but we were so well distanced that it didn't really matter. But he had actually worn his mask the entire hike, and we were on like a good hour hike. So kudos to that kid for sure. I mean, I had my mask and Anthony had his, but we weren't wearing them the entire time we were out. I mean, when the strangers came up, of course, we put on our mask and stuff and greeted them. Um, but for the most part, we're okay, and we were at such a safe distance it didn't really matter. Well, after our little adventure, of course, he wanted to go to the park, and he's like, I've been wearing my mask the whole time, and I've been good, and I didn't throw any tantrums or anything. And he was being so awesome. I mean, both of them were so awesome, and they had, normally would have earned time to go to the park, and I was completely fine with it. It's like I got my hand sanitizer and everything. So I said, okay, so let's go to the park and see if there's anyone there. And if no one's there, you're more than welcome to go play on the playground for a bit, right? And of course, we got there and there were some people there, and none of them were wearing masks. And I was in that situation before earlier this year, before we had really super been hit as hard as we currently are. We currently have 15 dead in my area, so I wanted to, I was just like, I don't feel comfortable with this, and was explaining it to him. And of course, Anthony, goes off and is like, well, we were wearing our mask, mommy, and we'll wear our mask, see, we're wearing our mask and all this other stuff. And I kept driving, and I was trying to explain to Merrick why we weren't going to the park. And of course, Anthony wanted to do his own explanation. And I had to cut off my oldest son to explain to both of them the reason why it was not safe to go play at the playground. And of course, Merrick was upset, and his feelings were valid. And I explained to him, your feelings are valid. They're definitely valid. You are upset. You've been homeschooling since this spring. You haven't really gotten to see or play with other kids at all this year. At least earlier this year when we first went to quarantine, they did do a live lesson with their teachers and classmates, so they did get to at least see their classmates video chat. But when school reopened again later this fall, the online students don't really get that. The most interaction my kids get is with their speech therapist twice a week. That's not quite the same as if they got to have that exact same experience that they had earlier this year with their teacher and their fellow students. So yeah, their feelings are valid. They don't get to go to the park like they used to. They don't get to play with other kids like they used to because it's really not safe to do it. And, we have to consider that when we talk about mental health, when we talk about, the mental struggles that we've been struggling with throughout this year, we tend to forget about the kids. And the kids are probably having it just as hard as the adults, if not harder, because they're seeing the adults in the household who are under a lot of stress, who are scared to go out and, limiting the amount of time they go out. They also have to wear the mask as well. They possibly are saying what's going on the news if you're watching the news around your kids. They also aren't getting to socialize like they normally do. And no, I am not going to send my kids to the physical school. No, I'm not doing it. I don't care if there are kids actually going to the physical school in my area. I'm not doing it. I am going to keep my family safe. But you also have to understand that their feelings are just as valid as yours. They're going to be upset just like you're upset, and they're also going to want everything to go back to quote unquote normal like you do. But you also have to make sure you take the time to educate your kids so they understand what has been going on. So, yes, my kids are 7 and 8, soon to be 8 and 9 by next month. And I have been, to the best of my ability, and my mom has been, to the best of her ability, making sure that they understand what's been going on and why it needs to be done. So, that is why when Merrick was upset, I told him, your feelings are valid. You have every right to be upset. But it doesn't change the situation that we are in. And we also have to consider other people's health and our own health in keeping everyone safe. And that is literally what has been going on. So, no, I did not let my kids go play at the park. They did get to go out for an hour. They just didn't get to play with other kids. They didn't get to play on the playground. And I hate that. It destroys me as a parent, because for years, the best way, because I don't really have any friends that also have kids. I only did at one time have a friend that also had a kid that was about the same age as mine, but we weren't really interacting that much, and now we don't talk at all. So I don't have any friends that have kids that are also about the same age as mine. Most of the people I know, most of their kids are teenagers and up. My kids are the babies. And so I used to make up for that by taking my kids to the playground so they could interact with other kids and so they could socialize. And it's really important for kids to be able to socialize. I think, it would be awesome if the school, at least once a week, would let my kids and take the other kids that are doing the homeschooling and let them do, just to get together and catch up with everyone and get to interact and video chat with each other like they did earlier this year. Instead of what they're currently doing, which is they have a camera that's sitting in the classroom and you get to just watch the classroom. You don't get to interact with anyone, nothing. And what's the point of all that? So that happened yesterday. Now, the other thing is I have a friend, or had a friend, who was in this relationship dilemma thing. And so I was trying to help her through the situation. But in the process of trying to help her in that situation, my own mental health was going up and down. As if you guys have been keeping up with my videos, I was talking about how mentally I've been struggling the last couple of weeks, and that is true, I have been. It's been harder and harder for me to get the motivation to do these videos, and it sucks because I really love doing these videos. I really love interacting with my viewers, and honestly, this is like my peace of mind. This is, I enjoy making and creating videos for you guys and blogging and, just sitting down and having these conversations. I actually feel like myself, and I get to just take off my mask and just be me and just share my life and my creations and everything that I've been doing with you guys. And I honestly really enjoy that. I love being a creator. And then, I have to put a mask on and I have to go to a regular job just to pay my bills. So, I've been struggling because I've been going, what the F have I been doing? So, mentally, I wasn't in a good place. And I may talk about that in an episode. I don't want to talk about that too much in this episode beyond that. So basically, my friend was in like kind of a love triangle. I don't want to say too much about that. She had the person that she is actually in a relationship with, and then she had a person she had a crush on. And I was trying to explain to her, how I would have dealt with it. My only thing was she hadn't met either of these two people actually in person yet. They all were long distance, so I was just kind of iffy about that whole situation anyway. I don't like long distance relationships. For some people, they may work out. I personally don't like them. So I was explaining to her from my own perspective, from my own experiences, trying to give her advice through all this. And then one day, out of the blue, she asked, "How do you talk someone out of suicide?" This is something I have done on numerous occasions. I have talked friends and family out of suicide, and, vice versa. So it wasn't the first time for me being in that situation, but it was the first time for her. But this was also a little different because I wasn't talking to the person that was being suicidal. I was talking through someone else to the person that was being suicidal. So that whole thing was new for me. But I did my best and try to help her friend out of the suicide thing. Now, the friend in question was my friend's crush. And it was like, okay, well, soon after this, she started getting back into conversation with me. Things were not working out with the person she was in a relationship with, and she was really leaning towards this other person she had a crush on, but they weren't replying back to her. And I explained to her, well, they just had a complete mental breakdown. First off, they were being suicidal. They probably are ignoring you because mentally they are exhausted. When I have a complete mental breakdown, I shut down because I am exhausted. It is extremely exhausting when you have that. And, you barely function. And in our society, they want us to just keep functioning and keep going and just tough it out. When in reality, we need to just shut out the world for a bit and just rest. But we aren't able to in our society. So I could understand why she'd, go, no, I don't want. Well, from my understanding, my friend was basically trying to talk with her about possibly being in a relationship or if she was interested in her and stuff, and of course she blew her off. Not surprised, because I would blow someone off. And I don't understand the mindset. I've had this happen to me personally. I don't understand the mindset of people where it's like, hey, so since you're no longer suicidal, do you want to go out? It really pisses me off because it's like they take advantage of you being in an extremely vulnerable state and then dump all this shit on you. And it's like, no, I don't want to date you, but thanks for talking me out of suicide. Like, you don't want to be a bitch to this person, but at the same time, it's a dick move for them to do that. So I was honestly really kind of frustrated with my friend for having done this in the first place. Now, the person she's in a relationship with, I felt like was kind of a toxic situation for her because knowing how she is, having had dated her myself, I didn't feel like the type of person she was with would work for her. And I felt like that was a toxic relationship for her. That person may not be toxic themselves, but the relationship could be potentially highly toxic. And apparently I wasn't the only one saying this because her best friend was also saying the same thing. But, at the end of the day, it's her life, her business, whatever. Well, the situation had ended up triggering me. And I hadn't really realized that it had. I just knew I was triggered. I didn't understand why. And it's not the first time that I have triggered without knowing where my trigger came from. And one of the things that sucks with my particular PTSD is it's from trauma that happened to me when I was so young that I do not have an actual memory of it, which makes it difficult in therapy because the whole idea in therapy is to have you relive the trauma and process through it so you can work through it. I don't remember the trauma, so I can't relive it. I can't process through it. So what triggers me one day can not trigger me the next day, or vice versa. And it sucks. But this is also the reason why I've stayed single. So I didn't quite understand why I was triggered. I was trying to figure it out, and then it finally hit me that it was because of the situation with my friend. And the situation she was going through with what she was dealing with her friend and all this other stuff that was going on. And I was just saying there like, oh my god, that's why I'm triggered right now. So I sat there and I processed, and I wanted to say something to her. I wanted to explain to her why I was a bit upset. But I also didn't want to have it be at her just simply because I was triggered. So I wanted to calm down from my trigger. So from the advice of another friend, I texted her and told her I need a break right now. Which was true. I did need a break. So I could process it. Now, yesterday, I had basically come up with something I wanted to talk to her about. But I texted her, I told her, there's something I want to talk to you about, but because it's Christmas, I don't want to upset you today, so I'm just going to simply wish you happy holidays, and, maybe we'll talk tomorrow. Well, she basically told me to go ahead and tell her what was on my mind, so I was trying to explain to her about the situation and why it triggered me, and probably came off as a bitch because I'm extremely blunt when it comes to certain things. And so I was bluntly explaining to her that I felt like she had handled the situation childishly. And I had actually taken the time to go back and look at our previous conversations to make sure my feelings were legit. And basically, from my understanding of the situation, they were. She had handled it in the worst possible way ever. So, and it was just from my understanding. And she, of course, snapped at me and told me that I didn't really understand the whole situation and that was effed up and all this other stuff. But it's like, from what you explained to me, that was how I interpreted the situation. Again, communication sucks sometimes, especially through text messages. You're very limited when it comes to text. I mean, one of the things I have a love-hate relationship with text. You're limited on what you can and can't say due to the amount of stuff you can type. But I also love text messages in a way, especially when I've been triggered, because I can go back and reread a conversation to make sure that I actually remembered it correctly. So I have a love-hate relationship with text messages. And I explained to her, well, from the way you had explained to me about the situation, that this is what you did, and I feel like that was extremely childish of you, and it shouldn't have happened that way. And you should have been more mature about the whole situation and, all this other stuff. And then, of course, she replies and goes, so I guess this means that I'm not getting my Christmas gift. Honestly, that really effing pissed me off. And was extremely childish of her to say. I'm sitting here trying to have a serious conversation about a situation that you were in and trying to explain to you why that situation could have been handled better. So maybe in the future, if you end up in a similar situation, you can possibly handle it better and in a less childish way. Coming from someone who deals with mental health issues, who has dealt with having her relationships destroyed because of those mental health issues, because of the way people have approached it. And instead, you're worried about your stupid Christmas gift. Which, by the way, if you are watching this, it is in the bloody mail. It had already been shipped off before we even long had since this conversation. So you will be receiving it sometime in January. That's all I'm going to say to you. But what I'm trying to get across... I need a cup of coffee. What I'm trying to get across is, if you are helping someone who is struggling with mental health issues, and you could like that person, you could have a crush on that person, your feelings are valid, that is fine. However, you do not approach that person so say someone approaches you that you have a crush on, they're having a huge mental breakdown, and they come and lean on you, and you provide them a shoulder to lean on and cry on and whatever, so to speak. And you're there for them. Okay? You do not follow that situation by going, so, I know you just had a mental breakdown, but do you want to date? I have a crush on you, and I've always liked you, and da-da-da-da-da. No, that is the wrong timing to do it. That also shows your own immaturity, and any relationship that starts off in that type of situation is not the best kind of relationship to have. I'm not saying to not get with someone that is mentally unstable. I'm not saying that at all. As someone who at times can be mentally unstable, I'm not saying that at all. A lot of times it's really nice to have a relationship, to have someone to lean on. I know for me personally, it would be nice if I wasn't single at times, especially when I am mentally at my lowest. It would be really nice to just come home and just flop on top of my significant other and go, blah, 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 blah. It would be really nice. It would be awesome. But at the same time, I also recognize that it takes a lot to be with someone who has mental issues. And you really have to kind of consider both sides of a situation. You can't just sit there and go, oh, well, they're blowing me off, even though I know they just had a mental breakdown. But I guess that means that they also don't like me back. No, it could just simply mean that they are mentally exhausted, and leave them the F alone and let them recover. So I just want to bring this up, bring some awareness to it, so people understand. Everyone handles mental difficulties differently, but you do not try to push them into a relationship, whether it's friendship, whether it's more, when you know that person is mentally vulnerable. And I think this is a really good point to pull up, especially right now, because a lot of people are going to be mentally struggling. Also, I want to talk to those who are in that situation to understand that you may be lonely, you just had a huge mental breakdown, you do want someone to lean on, but choose who you lean on very carefully. I am so grateful to be surrounded by a very small group of friends that I know I can lean on when I need them the most. And I can reach out to them, and they are there for me. However, there was a time in my life I was surrounded by a whole bunch of people who were not healthy for me in any shape or form. And yet I held on to them because I didn't want to be alone. It was easier to be with unhealthy people when I was mentally at my lowest than to handle it by myself. However, if you truly want to finally heal from whatever trauma you are trying to heal from, getting as many toxic, unhealthy people out of your life and putting a huge barrier up and making sure your boundaries are up and heard is very important. And if you have someone who is pushing your boundaries, it doesn't matter if you like them back, that person can go F themselves. I've done it countless times in my own situations. If someone does not respect my boundaries, especially after I just had a mental complete breakdown, that person can stay the hell out of my life. Period. So that is just simply what I wanted to discuss today. Just be aware that, especially right now, with everything going on, everyone's going to be extra lonely right now, just simply because everyone has to be in quarantine. They can't really visit family and friends. And if you are, I'm really hoping you are staying safe and healthy out there. And if you're feeling sick, stay home. If you need groceries, most grocery places are allowing you to do curbside pickup. Okay? If you're worried about people seeing your, tampons or condoms or whatever, think about the fact that those same people that are buying that shit also gets to put that shit on the shelf and restock it. So they're going to see it anyway. Also, if you check out, they're going to see it when they're checking you out. Just use the curbside pickup, please. It's there to keep all of us safe and healthy, because if you want everything to go back to normal, the best way to do that is to try to keep everyone else safe. Wear your mask, keep yourself safe, keep the other people around you safe. Try to social distance as much as you can. Even my coworker and I, there's just two of us. We take full advantage of the fact there's just two of us. Social distance. When we are on our break, we wear our mask on our break, which sucks because I don't get to eat my snacks and stuff, but whatever. I put up with it to keep him safe, and he puts up with it to keep me safe. That is humanity. Be there for each other. If you have a friend that is having a complete mental breakdown, be there for them. Hold their hand, even if it's through the internet. Just be there for them as best you can. And if you have a crush on that person, please do not bring that up in the process of trying to talk them out of suicide. Thank you. Take care, my sweeties. I love you all, and happy holidays.